We'll start off with a side plate, which is also known as the bread plate, and I'm just going to put my napkin on there. That's a napkin, not a serviette. It comes from the French nap for cloth. Smell, really?
Napkin.
Yes. Serviette means towel. We're going to start off with soup, so that goes from outside. We're then going to have fish, so we've got a fish, knife and fork. Now, a lot of people, this was a Victorian invention, the fish knife and fork, because it is actually easy to fillet the fish. So some very posh families say, we don't have fish knives in our canteen because it was made far too early. But I like fish knives and forks and I always use them. Then we're going to have the main course, so knives always on that side. So the bigger knife, knives always go with the spoon and the glasses, and therefore we have the bigger fork. Then we are going to have pudding, not dessert, although everyone calls it dessert. This is actually pudding, and this pudding spoon goes there with the fork, because you always eat pudding with a spoon and fork. Then we may have cheese, in which case we would have the cheese knife there. And then if we were having dessert, this is a dessert knife and fork.
Now what's the difference between dessert and pudding?
Dessert means the fruit that follows the meal.
Oh right,
and that is how they ate, with this very sharp knife and fork to peel their oranges, cut their apples, so you didn't get any juice on your beautiful clothes.
Okay, so you have soup, starters, a main course, pudding.
Soup, fish, main course, pudding, cheese, dessert.
Oh, I'm hungry already.
That's
my kind of meal.
You will sometimes, and then you could have the bread knife would be on the bread plate, or it can be there, but I always put it on the bread plate.
So as a general rule of thumb, it's always outside
in. Because you will see a lot of pudding and things there. Now that is mainly because it saves space. You're using quite a lot of space in hotels, especially if you've got from the outside in. But this,
if I was laying a table at home, I would probably put the pudding dessert spoon at the top.
The reason that is left there is because that should be for a crescent-shaped salad bowl. So that the salad was always the thing that you had to cleanse the palate after or before, could be between the main course or after the main course. The Queen, because you cannot start before the Queen or finish after the Queen, and Queen Victoria used to eat so fast that at a very big dinner, half the people hadn't even started by the time the plates are cleared, then the Queen always has some salad so that she can make sure that everybody's finished their meal too.
So if I was ever to have dinner with the Queen, which will probably never happen unless of course they're back Prince Harry, then I would always have to wait until she finished. When she finished dinner, then I'd have to finish immediately.
You'd have to finish before her. Yes, really. You start.
So if I was still
after
eating,
her.
I'd have to stop eating.
You would.
How rude.
But she would make sure that she didn't finish until you had. Queen Victoria didn't. So even if you were, it would all be whipped away. Soup, you always, if that's a soup bowl, but however it can be a larger one, you eat pushing away from you at the side.
My dad did teach me that one.
And you hold a knife and fork like that. Yes. But make sure that is tucked in, so we don't want to see any of the edges. That's it. And because you get much more of a leverage on cutting the meat then. When you're not eating, you put down every 4 mouthfuls. What you don't do is start talking with these little weapons. So when you're not eating, you put cross swords position, and there is a historical reason why that was done. And then, as I say, hands should be no more than 3 inches off the plate. And when we've finished, we go like that. Now again, in some very old families, and the French will have their fork that way up. That is because their crest was on the back of the fork, whereas our crest or initials are usually on that side.
Oh, I see.
So it's all for show.
All for show. and why the history lesson with the open knife and fork?
Because in the very old days, forks were invented in the Middle East long before we used them. Knights used to take their daggers, which were very sharp, to eat with. And so when the forks were invented, they would still use their dagger. And putting it like that meant it was going to be used for eating and not as a weapon.
Ah, right. So now you know fork over the knife.
Yes.
And do you know the meaning of why there's 2 crossed knives mean the sign of an argument? Because in my house it's kind of like when you're clearing the table away, no 2 knives should go together. In case
I think it's again that the knights sort of put their knives. There are several sort of reasons for that. One is if you put your knife and he put his knife, then that means you're in a feud. So, but I think that's superstitious.
I hope so too.
Yes. But it should always be tidy at the end, so you're less likely to knock it off. Some people, 6:30 is easier, and then everyone knows that you've finished. If you're leaving like that, who knows if you've got food on your plate, who knows whether you finished or not. So you tell everyone, even if there's food left. A napkin goes on your knee, never tucked in, never wipe your face with it, dab very politely, don't blow your nose on it, and certainly not polish your shoes with it, which I have seen done in some.
Oh no!
So that is, in a very brief nutshell, your table.